Morning, everyone. Welcome to another FCCA podcast. Got three very special guests with us today. First of all, we got Ismail Dawood, who represented Glamorgan, Northamptonshire, Worcestershire and Yorkshire as a wicketkeeper batsman before moving into umpiring. Good morning, Ismail.
Morning, Darren. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, R.P Singh as well, who represented India in ODIs in the 1980s before moving over here, becoming a level 4 coach and worked at Lancashire as development officer. Good morning.
Yeah, morning everyone. Morning, Dad.
And John Holder played for Hampshire between 68 and 72 before his injury curtailed his playing career, moved into umpiring. And if you're a listener to Test Match Special like I am, you'll know him as from RC Umpire. So good morning, John.
Good morning everyone.
Right, we're going to move on to quite a controversial subject today, racism in cricket and more importantly, racism in English cricket. So there's been a couple of quite high profile players that spoke out on this. Azim Rafiq from Yorkshire accused Yorkshire of institutional racism. Michael Carberry says racism is rife in English cricket and doesn't expect the ECB to do that much about it, was his quote. So if I can ask you all, Ishi first, can you talk us through your journey in cricket and if you've come across anything nasty like that?
Well, Darren, you know, I grew up in Yorkshire. I was born and bred here. My grandfather came to the UK in 1956 from the Gujarat in India. And my passions in cricket basically came from my family background, my granddad. So I started playing cricket from a very young age, on the streets really. At school, I was lucky to play at school and club cricket. So in terms of racism in cricket, you know, we're meant to see cricket as a very pure game. You know, I was brought up on reading books. My granddad used to read books, Neville Cardus, you know, all these great writers on the game. And I remember at the time, you know, for a working class lad in Batley where I grew up, my granddad used to get the Daily Telegraph because it used to have the best section for scores and updates on cricket. It was absolutely fantastic. So in terms of how we got brought up in the game, it was a very pure look at the game. Test cricket, the longer version of the game, was always the most important. Having progressed into cricket in the 80s, and I was lucky I started in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and I've even obviously seen the last 10 years. I've had 4 different decades of cricket in Yorkshire and other parts of the world, and then with ECB. So I was encountered with very honest racism from an early start of my life, where certain aspects of things which we would take very difficult now were quite normal. Being called names, being looked down upon, I suppose, being looked upon as somebody who was a little bit inferior. That was pretty normal in the cricket I grew up with. But we just accepted it, we got on with it. It was just the way it was. As I progressed into professional cricket, you know, higher level cricket, professional cricket, up the grades, what I found was the real, you know, the issues were more deeper when it comes to racism. Cricketers are generally nice guys. Cricketers are generally nice people, you know, they're generally nice people. It's people in authority who want to keep certain status quo, which is what I found as I progressed from cricket, from playing into umpiring. That was the hardest bit. You know, people in authority who want to create, you know, keep the status quo, a little bit bury their heads in the sand, and don't actually think there's a problem. But racism is not just a cricket issue; it's a societal issue. So because we have such a big issue in society in terms of racism, it's in the press today, paper today. Martin Luther King Day today, you know. There's things going on in America. There's things going on in sport in England. Things going on with the royal family. It's just in the public eye, day in, day out. It's actually a societal issue. So racism in cricket is always going to be there because it's a societal issue. And until we actually question certain structures of society and really analyse them and hold them to account, will we probably get an answer to all of this? So I hope I've answered my question there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, RP, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and anything you've encountered as well, please?
Thanks, everyone. My journey has been very different. Born and brought up in India, played all my cricket in India. And in mid-80s, I started to come over as an overseas professional, like many others did in those days. Obviously, that is not the same in club and league cricket or even county cricket to the extent. So then I was, as an overseas professional, of course, quite a privileged position if you come as a professional for a club. And so I was treated very differently for many, many years, and never ever encountered any such thing in terms of, and I played right across, most of United Kingdom, really, in a sense, as a mercenary. Wherever you got paid, you went and played cricket. So wasn't such thing I personally encountered, and it was kind of a new experience for me, being here playing cricket and totally focused on that, probably oblivious to maybe some undercurrents of all those things may have been the case. And then subsequently, of course, I stayed back, joined 1st of January 1997 when ECB was formed, and I joined as those days they brought out a lot of these positions in cricket to develop cricket right across England and Wales. And from then on, of course, I had a different role, different hats in terms of playing, at the same time also, of course, working in cricket. And in order to sort of take you to the point, I was soon after there was a working party was formed, because this was very much part of the conversation, racism within cricket, bias within cricket. And Terry Bates, who used to be working ACB, and he formed a group, working party, to look at racism within cricket. And I was part of that group. Very wide-ranging consultation up and down the country. A lot of issues were brought up to us, and he kind of looked into both sides of things. Sometimes we forget segregation is not always the one way, and we needed to address that. At Lancashire, my role was to work within the development of cricket within the ethnic minorities, Black and ethnic minorities communities. And that also gave me a lot of insight that how sort of this issue. And what I found personally at the time, that he was having conversation the both way. There's a lot of, what he called it, unawarenesses of people did not understand the issues. So there would be a club, an Asian boy particularly would go to play for a club. All of a sudden you see, if that club is there, a lot of them would come and play there, but not go to another club. And those clubs would be kind of classed as within the sort of mindset that, there's a bit of undertone where, we don't go there. And I think it was a lot to do with not understanding, while every English grassroots cricket club would welcome everybody as you follow the rules, become the member, and do your bid. And I think that was sort of not generally part of the psyche from a community point of view. They wanted someone to engage with them, and those were the gaps. So you kind of looked at the issues both ways, and we did a lot of good work, and it was developed that way. And then slowly a lot of understanding, was created. So I personally haven't had any such sort of issues per se, but not to say that it didn't exist, because you can sort of understood it. And also a lot of things were subconscious, within the back of my not clear out there, but there were subconscious people sort of trying to protect there. Or if you look at the grassroots structure, it's all run by the parents. The club does not function if the membership of the club doesn't work there voluntarily. And most of the people who get involved in junior cricket, otherwise running of it, they mainly because either they're playing themselves or their offsprings, their kids, son and daughters playing. So their first and foremost interest is to look after them. So you more call it nepotism in a sense. And that's what they carry on age by age group from, as their child progresses through the ladder and so on and so forth. So there is those kind of things are there, and they could be misunderstood as. So it's much deeper, much complex issue than very straightforward to say, there are subconscious biases. There are clear biases at time you come across, people could see, but also, as I said, working party group, the recommendation, hit racism for 6 document was brought. Only thing I would say that probably it was brought and put on the shelf and wasn't much done with it, because very wide ranging, recommendations were there at the time. And I think it was a tick box exercise by ECB at the time, I guess. Yes, we've done so Sports England, the government and everybody say ECB is doing their bit. Unfortunately, it wasn't until much later, as we progressed and of course, a lot more engagement now. And in many ways, you look at it's said about Yorkshire, Lancashire, a lot of grassroots crickets now relies on mainly young kids coming from Asian background, otherwise they won't survive. So there's a lot of sort of dynamics have changed at the moment. But yes, personally, I didn't directly anything experience, but my view is that there's a lot of subconscious bias, whether it's you look at the county structure, how the coaches get into working in there, and so on and so forth. So those are my thoughts on it, and I'm sure other guys have their views, but I think I'll leave at that point that yes, there is subconscious bias which can be addressed and should be addressed.
Thank you very much, RP. Good morning, John.
Good
Anything
morning,
you'd like
good
to add?
morning,
Good morning. Would
Yeah,
you like to tell us about your
me,
journey and any issues that have come about?
let me say that I've been abused once on a cricket field in 1989. In 1989, I umpired a test match at Edgbaston, Australia with Dickie Bird. And we had a lot of rain from the Thursday just before tea time. We had a thunderstorm, the game was washed out. End of play for the day. We had a little bit of play on Friday because the ground was very wet. Overnight it rained. And then again, so we probably had about 2 hours play on the Friday. On the Saturday, just before play was due to start, it rained again. It started to drizzle, and it drizzled for hours. Anyhow, eventually we were able to start, and we were going to do a couple of hours. And then after an hour or so, it started. I think it got dark. It got very dark. And as we came off the field, a spectator in the white stand at Edgbaston stood up and shouted at me, didn't say a word to Dickie, "John Holder, you effing nigger, you've deprived me of my chance of seeing cricket." Now, 2 umpires have made decisions, and it was very wet. We consulted with the ground staff and did what we had to do, made sure that the conditions were right for both teams. But I got all the abuse, and that is the only time in my cricket life I've had problems with abuse. I played for Hampshire. I had 8 years with Hampshire. Actually, I started in '66, but I made my first class debut in '68. And I had most of the fellows with whom I played at Hampshire have remained good friends. So I had a good time. I had 7 very happy years at Hampshire. And then came up north in 1974, played league cricket for 9 years in the leagues. Again, didn't have any problems. And then I started coming to the end of my playing career. I started umpiring in 1983 and had 27 very enjoyable years. And there are times up there, especially when you get bad light and so on, that you're aware of the fact that spectators aren't very happy. But it's when you get problems like that, ground weather and light, it's a very delicate balancing act to make sure that neither team is inconvenienced and that spectators get value for money. But it can be difficult at times. And so you will hear the fact that spectators are grumpy, they're not happy because there's no play. But I must admit, in my 27 years of umpiring were very, very enjoyable, and I didn't have any problems. But it didn't blind me to the fact that you watch the news and so on, you listen to different people talking, and I realized that there are problems in society. And the bottom line really is that certainly in this country, whites have always run cricket, and they are reluctant to give up that management. They want to carry on running, and that's one of the reasons why Ishi said that he had problems with authorities cricket rather than players in cricket, and that is very, very true. And since we've had this case ongoing now, it's really opened my eyes to what is actually happening in cricket. What really triggered my involvement was when I saw the Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter in America, how Black people were treated, and then I saw that really impassioned speech from Michael Holding at the AGS Bowl about how Black people are treated. And Ebony Rainford Brent, she made a comment, and then I found out that there are two former players. Ishi is one of them, who had applied to go on the first class panel and got sidelined really without any proper reason. And that really those sort of things really opened my eyes, because the only reason why they could have been sidelined is because of their color. There was no other reason. So there is a problem in administration in cricket in this country.
Thanks very much, John. Then
Yep.
now move on to Raj. Anything you'd like to add?
My journey is of 4 steps here really, and it started like RP said. I started coming here as an overseas player, and that was the best part, because at that time you're just focused on your performance and how you get your contract renewed and whether you get enough runs and wickets, and I think you quite oblivious to what is happening around you at that point, because you're just concerned about yourself. So, there are people everywhere in this planet. You go to play cricket, you'll get good people and you get idiots. And there will be, the odd thing would be said to me, and RP would know that we grow up in India in a cricketing environment which is completely sink or swim. Okay, we are thrown at it at the deep end. If you can make it, fine. If you can't, tough luck. No one bothers about it. So we are quite tough people to deal with it. And if I got something, I gave back in return as well. So that's the overseas part gone. Next, I have been at, I think this is my 3rd private school. And since 1996, I have worked at private schools, and it has been absolutely fantastic. Right. I mean, obviously in every workplace, you will get people you don't get along with, but there has not been any bias or anything. The 3rd step is coaching, and I've coached at clubs, I've coached at schools, and I've coached at counties, and the clubs and schools part is fantastic. But the moment you go to counties, what I felt is there is a glass ceiling, which you hit very quickly. Now, look, I take it in a completely different way to a lot of people, because first of all, I still consider myself as an outsider. Okay, I come here to work. England is not my country. So I just come here to work because the exchange rate is good and there is employment in what I can offer. That's it. Now, if, say, Darren, you are looking to employ a chef to cook for 50 people at your house, who knows how to cook Indian meals, right?
Yeah.
and you finally go and appoint someone who has never cooked in his life, right? But has read a lot about cooking and gone to see a lot of presentations about cooking, right? That's completely your call,
Mm.
right? It's
Yep.
it's you, your house. You do whatever you want to do, but you cannot say to me that, right, there are five guys here who have applied for this chef role at my place. I will go through a presentation course with you for which you have to pay me £2,000. And after that, all of you will get an equal dig of, working at my place. And after that, you only pick four and you don't pick me, right?
Yeah,
Then there is a problem.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And and the next one is I started to do umpiring in the year 2010. So I inquired, how do I get into it? And I was told that you need to get on this course, which was the first ECB level 2 umpiring course held at Derby. And so I enrolled on it. I went for that. And the guy who was in charge of that, he's a quite high up ECB umpiring official. And the first thing when we started talking, I took him aside and he was showing us that place around where it was held. And I took him aside and I remember I said, I want to have a quick word with you because I have no interest whatsoever in weekend umpiring as my retirement plan. I do not have any intentions of doing it. I want to umpire and umpire real cricket. That's what I want to do. So tell me if that is possible and what do I need to do for that? I'll do everything for that. So he said, he asked me about my cricket background and whatever. And he said, you shouldn't have any problems because you are a ex first class player. So you will be fast tracked. Okay, fine. So I did the course. I came back into my county where I was umpiring and I had to start at a level lower than someone who was a local boy or with my same credentials would have to do. When I asked, I wasn't given any answers. I did 2 years of that. And in those days, the rule was with someone having done level two is you would get 6 Premier League games. Okay. I understand I could not do the full season because of my school commitments. So I could do just more than half the season. So pro rata, I would be entitled to 3 Premier League games. Right. Now, what happened was I wasn't even getting three, but whenever I was umpiring, my scores were more than 8.5, 8.5, but I wasn't getting even three, right? So I asked them what's happening. So they said, no, because you don't umpire the full season. So I said, I can understand. That's why I'm not asking for six, but I should be entitled to three. So that didn't happen. Fair enough. The season finished, and I asked them the next meeting we had, and I asked the guy responsible, and I said, I was told initially that if you have this cricket background, you're going to be fast tracked, and I can see someone else who started 1 year before me, same sort of cricket background. He's been fast tracked. He turned around to me and he said, but yes, you have played first class cricket, but not in England or Australia. So at that point, I said, right, I didn't know the IPL was held in Australia and England. You're bending over backwards to send people to IPL, and at the same time, you're saying this to me. So that was it, period. I just cut it out and I shifted. I rang Surrey up and I went on the Surrey panel, and they were absolutely fantastic in the allotment of games. Fantastic. I did that a couple of years,
Mm.
but then I wasn't going anywhere. And I was thinking, I'm wasting my time here because there's no point. I have no intention of doing social cricket as umpire. So I got in touch with the guy who had initially I had spoken to at Derby. And I rang him, and he heard me, and he said, after a bit of deliberation, he said, "Yeah, I know where you're coming from, but I can't give it to you in writing. But your first class will not be counted because you have played it in India." I said, "You could have told me that when I had met you in Derby. So why did you take my money, my time, and waste this for 5 years?"
Yeah.
So and that's my issue. You appoint whoever you want to, right? But don't take my money, don't take my time. Just think of it. Those 5, 6 years of doing coaching courses, umpiring courses, spending time on preparing for coaching courses, how much time was that? That I could have easily done coaching, earn money, put that into Google or Amazon, and I would have been much better off. So you have taken away my opportunity cost.
Mm.
Isn't it?
Very well put there, Raj.
Can I just interject there, Darren?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I want to explain what institutionalized racism, the definition of institutionalized racism is racist or discriminatory behavior which becomes part of a normal behaviors of people running something. So what me and John are talking about, what Raj just talked about there, and even RP talked about the fact that the 98 Commission, in which it looked at racism but did nothing with it. Racist, institutionalized racism is behavior, discriminatory or racist behavior that becomes part and parcel of a structure within a system. So when you asked earlier, have I encountered racism? All of us here have encountered racism. Whether we like it or we don't, we have actually encountered racism because we have been part of a system which has actual structures in place which have been designed to behave in a certain way for a long period of time, and still are until challenged, and actually still are. What the problem is, Darren, is nobody's been held accountable.
Yeah.
And like me and John have actually touched upon it a few times in our conversations with each other and with the press and media, is we want life to continue. We want actually things to improve. Raj does, RP does, I'm sure. We all want everything to get better. Of course we do. But we want it to be done where there's some form of accountability, because if you do not have any accountability, we actually cannot move forward. All we're doing is that history all of a sudden starts now. It doesn't start now. We have to actually look into what's been happening, look at the individuals who Raj talks about there, me and John have already talked about, even RP has touched upon it, because that is a really important point, what he said, that it was put on a shelf. Because the tick box exercises are just put in place to look good.
Yeah.
We want something more deeper and more sincere and more actual impactful, that people after us don't have to actually have issues with this. So in terms of Raj's journey there, you know, our issue is, and me and John have talked, it's actually the structures of a system, accountability, transparency. The ECB core value is to exorcise racism and discrimination out of the game. The way what Raj talks about, and the people Raj talks about are still in place now. The people me and John talk about are still in place now. And also the people RP talks about in his review have actually been there still now. In place now. Where is the accountability? Where is a chance of moving forward? And until this isn't addressed, there's going to be a problem. And I'll just say one thing: to address anything as a cricket player, as a coach, you have to accept this is the way it is. If I've got a problem with short ball, I've got to accept I've got a problem with short ball. If I can't bowl an in-swing, I've got to accept I've got an issue with that. Or my second or third spell, I'm getting tired. Once we accept something, we can actually do something about it. The acceptance issue is the biggest issue.
Good point.
Until the institutions we're talking about here, as a whole body, accepts and sincerely accepts as an issue, we will really just have tick box exercises, which we had 25 years ago.
But the problem is
if
that
I could add, sorry, go on, John.
The problem that the ECB doesn't want to accept, that they don't want to be held accountable. They want to sort of forget what has happened in the past and just start from with a fresh sheet of paper now. And that's a nonsense. That is a complete nonsense, because what has happened there has been, as Ishi said, it's institutional, it's deliberate. I mean, there's what has happened in the department where we work, the cricket operations department, can't have happened just by chance. There's got to be an intention not to employ people of a certain race or background. And now they're trying, and they're just picking who they want. Now, what I would like to see in that department where I worked and where Ishi worked is a level playing field for everyone who wants to become a first-class umpire, that you know exactly where you go, you know what process there is, you learn the laws, then you start to learn to umpire, and you maybe take a couple of years. It could be a combination of club cricket, good standard club cricket, and second level cricket, where you're learning, you're being taught, and your progress is being monitored. And then if you reach the desired level, and this should apply to everyone. If you reach the desired level and a vacancy has arisen on the first class panel, then you get there. But the present system is a nonsense. The present system encourages favoritism. It encourages cronyism. And the person who is making most of these decisions is somebody who is a failed umpire. He seems to try to portray the fact that the opinion, the idea that he knows it all about umpiring. He doesn't. He tried for a year and he got the sack. But yet he knows, this person knows more about umpiring than any umpire who's umpired for 20 years.
Can I come in?
And it's a nonsense. The whole idea of fast tracking is nonsense. There should be no fast tracking. Everyone should go through the same process of laws, learning how to umpire, and then if you make the necessary progress and a vacancy arises, you get there. But we've got people going on the first class panel, being accepted onto the first class panel, obviously all white, and some of them don't know the laws.
Yes,
Yeah,
Raj?
I mean, if I can just add to what Ish was saying, and in wider sense, and right at the outset, he said about the societal, issues, and we all understand that. I think, and also Raj said, is the glass ceiling, because I'm very positive, always coming from India. You have to be best of the best, brightest, work hard, sink or swim attitude. So you hardened individuals, obviously people like Ish who grown up in the society here probably have totally different experience in terms of growing up into cricket and biases and other things they've experienced. And it is a societal issue right across, and also the fear of other cultures, other mindsets, and also coming back to cricket itself, where Ras said glass ceiling, whether it's an umpiring side of things, the game of cricket coaching side of things, it is very much sort of this. We can gloss over with terminologies such as, let's say, subconscious bias, and or that's the way society works, because I didn't realize that, because I knew you'll be given a fair chance. You come from India to United Kingdom, England, where you knew everything is fair and square, and the fairest society you'll come across. Then you realize you hit that ceiling, and you realize that somehow that isn't the case. Yes, you get up to upset, then that you hit that glass ceiling big time. And I think it is something to do, whether I don't sound the same or don't look the same, or culturally I don't come across. But when it comes to Raj, as said, is about the qualification as a chef. He's the expert in Indian cuisine. If my cricket credential and qualifications were understanding of cricket, whether I can portray the way fit the model, and if you don't fit the model, you do not get opportunities. I think that's where it needs to be. Second point, the biggest and I've heard a lot of boys talk about that, like say Mark Lane and a few other boys, very much that is a kind of nod and wink, and somebody the committee, you just had your career, first class career, 10 years, and very quickly you do your badges, and very quickly you get slotted in, and that's the way it works. Anybody like from outside, whatever your qualifications and everything you've done, they keep you to a certain level. It sounds probably like very manipulative the way I'm saying keep it, but I think they don't sometimes, whether they do know or they don't know. I have no idea. But nonetheless, it exists, that those biases, subconscious bias. So easy for a first-class cricketer who has a number of years, whether, top career or not, but they've done their badges, and very quickly it's the next natural progression, and they very quickly get those opportunities. Because all internally sort of managed from committee structure to the people who are in charge. And that's why I agree with the point what John made, is the people and Ishmael, the people who make these decisions, whether they do willfully or whether they do subconscious, I don't know. But nonetheless, it exists and it's here.
Listen, can I just butt in for a minute? Yesterday, I heard a very interesting story from a former first-class player in first-class umpire as well. He lives in Cardiff, and he said that Cardiff apparently has one of the biggest Asian communities in Europe. And he said that and they play an awful lot of cricket. A lot of cricket is played in Cardiff among the Asians. Apparently, according to him, in 100 years of playing cricket in Cardiff, the Asians, only one Asian player has played first-class cricket from Cardiff for Glamorgan. Only one in 100 years. And there's so many Asians there playing cricket. Now, he's a white English, well, he's a Welshman, and he reckons that it's because of institutional racism as well. Only one white Asian player from Cardiff has played for Glamorgan.
I know Raj wants to butt in here, John.
That's horrible.
Raj can speak. I'm going to say something to Darren about my time growing up in Yorkshire, and the fact that there were some very talented cricketers. But I'll let Raj speak first, because he's been wanting to speak.
No, I was just carrying on from where John said. About a failed umpire running the show, and it comes across when you are in the system, you understand, and it comes to us who have, I think RP will agree with me, and John coming from Barbados, you will agree with me on this, that for us, cricket means it is made towards excellence. Cricket for us is not participation or creation of jobs. Okay. So
yes, good point.
Our part of the world, my coach used to tell us, listen, there will always be politics in sport, right? Because you can't stop it. So you have to be better than politics if you want to get forward. Otherwise, don't play the game, because you can't take it away. And our part, I'm sure RP will second me on that. There is a lot of politics, but the politics is between the 18 and 20 player. It is never between the 2 and 20 player. Okay. Now, when it happens between 2 and 20, it is like, what is going on? But I'll tell you why it goes on, and this is my experience. It is, as we said, we believe in the excellence part. Here, it is creation of jobs, and they need to look after the failed second team player or the academy player who has got the badges, because that guy doesn't have basic education, he doesn't have basic cricket. So he has to feed his family, which is fine, which is a very holistic way of looking at it, right? But for us, it is difficult to take. But if you tell us that, okay, cricket is not important, excellence is not important, the creation of jobs is important, then it's fine. Don't string us along. And then,
Good point, Raj.
I think, Raj, you made some points there about clarity, transparency. Again, transparency is vital, core value apparently of ECB. What I was going to say about my time grew up in Yorkshire. I started playing cricket in Yorkshire in the 80s. There was a big movement, issues with racism in cricket, you know, politicians getting involved. When I was playing for Yorkshire in 2005, the same issues, politicians came to Yorkshire to actually tell them, look, there's cricket's in our constituency, you're complaining we're not getting the chance, we're not getting the chance, we're not getting the chance. So the president at the time asked me, and the CEO asked me to go and meet this delegation. Remember, I'd been out of first class cricket for a couple of years, so I was making my comeback when I was playing for Yorkshire in 2003 onwards. And I was left in a situation where I couldn't say no. Why don't you go and speak to them and tell them there's no racism? Well, I could only speak about my own experiences. I was out of a game, so I had to go and play minor counties cricket. I played whatever cricket I played, I tried to perform. Because when you guys know, if you're playing, your runs and wickets are your currency. Once you keep that currency going, that is what is likely to get you in a game. Your performance is a key. So I went to see these guys, and I didn't want to go and see these guys, but I was actually put in a position where I had to go and see these guys. And I explained, look, I've got back into professional cricket. This is what I've done, but I can't put myself into the position of your constituents in your community who feel their glass ceiling is even lower, who feel that they're knocking their head against the wall. So I can't put myself into that position, but this is what I've done, you know. Don't you think it's a bit strange that we're in 2021, we had 1980s, we've had 40 years in between. There's a player at Yorkshire talking about the same problems. Yorkshire haven't got one Asian player who plays cricket for them. Adil Rashid, he never plays for them anyway. They haven't got one Asian player.
Yeah.
We're in the same situation we were 40 years ago. Every time you read about some, let me finish, Rod, 1 second.
Yeah.
My point is this: because people put in tick box exercises, nothing significant will ever get done.
Good point.
That's my point. The other week, when me and John came out in some articles, ECB put Moeen Ali out in a press article in the BBC. And he claimed he's never experienced racism in English cricket. Okay? A month before, in Pack Passion website, Sajid Sajjad had interviewed him on October 3rd, where he said, I go to certain sections of certain parts of England where certain sections of the crowd abuse me. I don't know why there's not more black or Asian players from Birmingham or Bradford. Why is it that I'm the first person to keep getting dropped? But yet the ECB put him out when me and John came out in our article to basically dismiss our pain and suffering. But we've never experienced any he's never experienced any racism. The same with Jofra Archer came out and Michael Holding came out. So what I'm trying to say here, Darren, Raj, RP, John, it's their approach to this, which is a big problem. Their approach to actually understanding the structured racism that exists, that is my real, what I'm trying to highlight. The way they look to dismiss, last year in the newspaper, in the media, Tom Harrison was caught in the press on a regular occurrence talking about issues with racism, what he'd experienced, the Black Lives Matter movement. Soon as me and John and others have actually highlighted what's going on in his own organisation. Where is he?
Yeah.
Where's he gone? Because this is a head in the sand approach. This is, it doesn't happen here. You know, it only happens elsewhere. Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. All we want you to do is sort your organisation out so we all can move forward. But that's a fundamental aspect. And that's what I wanted to say. Yorkshire is where it was 40 years ago. When Brian Close and people like them were going around Asian communities, Yorkshire, saying there's no racism. But in his book, he wrote about Pakistan as being a certain way. You know, you can't make it up. I'm giving you experience of my time when I was at Yorkshire. I'm talking about Azim Rafiq now. And not just Azim Rafiq, other employees at Yorkshire have actually spoke out about some of the things they faced. So my point is that in this timeline, because we've had tick box exercises for a while, nothing significant happened. Let's hope something does.
Yes, Raj, you want to add something?
Just taking Ishi's and John's and RP's point here, that in Cardiff, there are no first-class Asian players. In Yorkshire, there are no first-class Asian players. When I moved to this area, right, and I said RP's things because there is the reverse thing as well. I moved to this area and I was doing the North area, counties, selection, coaching, everything I was doing. And this is 2004 or 5. And in that space, there was one Asian player in the whole setup, one Asian player as a kid. And the place where I live, there is a massive Asian belt, as Darren is aware. Today, in that same setup, there are more than at least 20 to 30% Asian players. And in my academy, I think the ratio is almost 55-45. So more Asians than, English people. So we have actually moved forward on that. But at the same time, I'll tell you how the reverse thing works. So when I came to this place and I started coaching, there was this Asian guy who wasn't the only single player, who wasn't a bad player. And I said to his dad that he needs more work on these areas. Right, okay. So his dad asked me, would you like to do some work with him? I said, yeah, if you want, I can help him. And this is the rate, Oh, can I get a discount? Right, okay. No, sorry, I can't give you discount because I have to pay whole charges and whatever. And the next I hear is that same boy going and having regular sessions at the county ground with the dressing room attendant and paying more than I was asking for. So this is also reverse. So we are to blame also.
Yeah, no, you are right, Raj. Darren, can I just make another
certainly.
observation? I think it's about not just the people and out there, etc. It's more what happened in institutions and the mindset and the subconscious biases. I try to use that word, and cliche has become for people to get away with it in a sense. But it is an issue. To me, it's about, I always want for merit. We come from India, there's only two types of cricketers: one who can play cricket and one who can't. There is nothing in between, as Raj said. So we're very clear the talent ID, etc. And same goes when you're in jobs and coachings and everything. It's always about merit. You have to merit to get your position. That's nothing get away with it. All of us, we're not talking here, and where again, sort of token gestures and other things, merit. And that to me cringes is more directly coming to the excellence of cricket side. Whether we are looking at best coaching available to young kids, whether it's at the grassroots level in the club or looking at the county structure, age groups and above, you know. And I think that's where this compromise doesn't help, because the idea is, all the things we are talking about. I think to me that cringes me. And I always, when it comes to cricket, we don't compromise. You got to look at the basics and look at the techniques and all about the talent and that kind of things. And I think that's my issue, is that at all levels, the people who get into position, yes, very difficult to challenge any one game of cricket because they all can talk very good game. But do you have the sort of innate skills to coach someone? And those kind of things, to me, needs to be looked at. This is not a job creation or next progression after your playing career and so on and so forth. This is very much an excellent side, and either you're good enough, and if you're not, then someone else takes your place. And that system does not exist in county cricket or first class and below, you know, wherever the people are appointed. And that's where my issue is, along those lines, because we're not providing the best footing for all young players in this country. And we've just been watching the series in India. You look at the talent and you look at the technical basis all of these young people come from. We learn cricket from English, you know, we learn cricket all, but we're following the MCC coaching manual or Jeffrey Bacard book of coaching cricket
100%.
and improvise on that compared to all the modern technology. You look at the players and that cringes me, slightly digressing away from the issue, but it comes to the point.
I've been telling Peter Such for 5-10 years, send your spinners to play club cricket. I've been telling him.
Yeah.
I have been saying to him, send your spinners to play India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, to play club cricket. Never mind first class cricket or company cricket, where they're bowling every day in, day out against guys who actually play spin, and they're outside the comfort zone. I'm talking about county players, lads on county staffs. I'm even talking about guys who might have even played for England. Because the amount of bowling a spinner gets in England is minuscule. Nothing.
Yes.
No ball. Yeah. So then why don't they send them? Why don't they send them to India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, whatever? Because there you're going to bowl spin. You're going to bowl 4 hours a day. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to learn how to bowl. And he looked at me and I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, isn't it common sense? Isn't it just common sense? Why do we need to go to Australia or South Africa or New Zealand? Lovely places. You know, if you want to learn an art, you've got to go out and explore, right? But this is a mindset again. A mindset is, we do it every time England lose to India. We need to send a few players to India to play first class cricket or club cricket. Then after that, they'll go to Australia, New Zealand, they'll forget about it. And next time we go to India, they'll get hammered again or something like that. We need to send some players over. The mindset doesn't change. It stays the same because they believe that everything they're doing is wonderful.
But because at the root of all this discussion, this problem is the one of white superiority.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, for me, it's illogical. It's totally illogical that the color of your skin can determine the sort of person that you are. But and also in this case also, don't forget that it was the English who developed cricket. They're the ones who created cricket, and they feel they know it all. The whites have always run cricket in this country, and they've got no intention of giving it up. And that really is the heart of the problem. They are not prepared to give up the running. If you look around the country at the 18 first-class counties, all the minor county clubs, they're all staffed and the boards and so on, all white people. They've got no intention of sharing that power. And if too many non-white people get into positions of authority, then the dynamic will change. They don't want that. They want to hold on to power for as long as they possibly can. And that's the reason why, although the ECB knew that what Ishi and I said was true, they knew it was true because if it wasn't true, we would have been sued for libel. They knew it was true, but they're not prepared to give up. They feel superior.
Okay, thanks very much, Guy. I'm going to leave the last comment to Raj. Okay,
no,
Raj.
you can sum up. I've just got something.
Come on, Raj.
Go
Is
on,
it
Raj.
about the chef?
Some of us have got to go out this evening, so not too long, Raj.
Um, I was at a hospital a few years back, and I started talking to this nurse lady, and she was, going on her computer, filling notes and whatever. And I asked her, what are you doing? She said, oh, for every, patient that comes in, I have to do all this paperwork, and that takes up so much of my time in saying, how could I have nursed that person better? And I have to write all that, what I did and what I need to do more. And she said it would have been so much better if I could have actually committed that time to nursing rather than filling up the paper jobs. Similarly, if you take something which Ishi mentioned, just take two bowlers, take Aksar Patel and Dom Bess, right? Just from a bowling point of view, the amount of balls Aksar Patel would have bowled by the time he was 17 years old, and I don't believe he's 26, right? Okay. By the time he was 17 years old, right? Dom Bess and Jack Leach together have not bowled it in their lives yet. Why? Because in our part of the world, as a bowler, you bowl. As a batsman, you bat. You don't sit down and listen to PowerPoint presentations of cricket idiots telling you what you actually play. And that's how you get better.
Darren, can I just make an observation,
Certainly.
fleeting 30 seconds, if I may? And both boys have just said, Ish and Raj, and it's quite a deep analysis here in these sort of finer points. But overall, I mean, I was at Lancashire 20 years in the system and coaching wise and development side, etc., etc. And then, as you said, the trend came to take people, academy boys, young players, etc., to India, where they can learn. And a lot of businesses propped up in India, academies who started providing these facilities for them to go have 2 weeks and few names, etc. And the thing. 20 years and all in the system, and not for once knowing that team is going to India, and I have access to connections, people, facilities, and advice to what is the best value and outcome of it. Never been asked once. And he always, I was inquisitive and sort of curious about it. Why they did not asking me, and they go and asking through a travel agent, etc. And all these people go there. And I know, and sometimes you go there 2 weeks and you wasted your time. You've not done, whether match play or quality, etc. That's one point. Second point, all these years, it sounds like when you go to first class side of things, it's like a closed shop. Only when Peter Morse came to Old Trafford, Morsey, it was breath of fresh air. We all felt all engaged. All these years, all the qualifications, cricket knowledge, etc. First time I felt engaged with him because he's such a breath of fresh air. Everybody was okay. Other than that, it's like people do not want to their ceiling. Either they're fearful of something or I don't know. I mean, I've got question mark. I don't want to put into brackets and let other people make those calls and judgments, but there is something very, very seriously wrong in the system. It should be openness, as Ish said. It should be what is hiding, what is there. We are here to better cricket and cricket, young cricketers and cricket and system. And if you can contribute, you should be welcomed,
RP, look, me, John, have been involved in umpiring. You guys have played in India, and you'll know about this as well. The game has a way of looking after people, correct? It has a natural way. I mean, if you go to your associations in India, or John and I are talking about cricket here, he has a natural way of looking after ex-cricketers, correct? Would you agree?
Absolutely,
yeah. Now, my issue with this is, he has a natural way of looking after ex-cricketers who are white, not black. Because if you look at some of the plights,
good point. I'll add something to it.
If you have a look at some of the plights of Black and Asian players, we mentioned going into coaching. Well, actually, zero minimal, at a higher level. You talk about into officials, match referees, umpires, absolutely zero, nothing, or minimal. Administration, absolutely zero, nothing. CEOs, absolutely zero, nothing. Managers of boards, etc. So, the game naturally looks after people, but it looks after its own when it comes to ECB and us, and that's a fact. We're talking facts here. We're not even need to dilute the manner. Now, I don't believe that the game should even now look after people. We should get people in who can do the job, which is what John. We just want people who do the job.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
can do the job well, you do the job well, you're in. So what's happened, through history is that the game has naturally looked after its own people who've been part of the game. And like you said, it's a nudge, wink, wink. It's a lot of cronyism, a lot of issues. Me and John have stood with umpires who don't know the laws of the game, who actually don't know the laws of the game,
That's right.
But they're being looked after, and they're always going to be looked after. So let's hope that, times will change, things will change. There's more openness, like you say, and transparency. And the one thing I've got to say at the end of this is nobody's entitled to anything. Just because you play cricket, just because you might have been a top player, you're not entitled to anything. We need to get away from that mindset. There's no entitlement. You go in your life, whether you're whatever part of the world, but we're talking about UCB here, England, but you get somewhere because of your hard work and effort, and because you're pretty good at it, not just because you're entitled at it. And that's a really important thing I'm going to say, Darren. My issue isn't with the umpires, the players, the coaches. My issue is that we want a fair system where everybody has a chance, and you're there because you're there on merit. That's all.
Entitlement breeds mediocrity. Entitlement breeds. It's got to be on ability. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Exactly.
Sorry. Anything to add, RP, before we finish?
Well, no, I think you look at listening and trying to summarize all the boys' individual experience. Yes, you always find in society some idiots will come and say something, stereotypical, that kind of thing, and always going to be, because we're humans and always a lot of things. And we talked about, look at inwardly, we have issues. Everybody has that, but it's here. It's about merit. Here it's about things done an open and honest way, and everybody gets. Yes, you have to. As you said, you're not here asking for entitlement, but unfortunately, there is a system which, and what John just said, it creates mediocrity, and that's my issue with the system. That as much talent we have in this country as India produces, there. It's just how do we develop, nurture at every level, and the good people who understand the game of cricket, have that level of understanding, not that can talk good game and develop players, etc. And then betterment of cricket can exist in right across the communities, everybody who can play game, who can umpire game, and etc. quality. And that's what we're looking at here, and how that can be addressed, at powers that be level. And that's what we are seeking. Nobody's wanting and asking for any favoritism or anything like that. None, but not tick box token exercises, which seem to be happening.
Thanks very much for that, RP, and I'd like to leave the last word, as we generally do on these, to Raj.
Simple thing. RP and I have come and seen two methods of working, really, right? We have seen BCCI working when BCCI didn't have the, golden egg that they have now. And in those days, from the 80s, and I'll go back before that also, there was no funding ever given for anything else other than the excellence pathway. Not 1 rupee was spent on touching cones then, and I don't think 1 rupee is spent today on touching cones or creating jobs as such. Okay, that is what creates the problem. If you're looking for excellence, you will get excellence. If you are looking for mediocrity, as John mentioned, and just create jobs, you will get that. But whatever happens, just make it open. You don't have a chance, you have a chance. Fine. Don't waste anyone's time, because time is money.
Well said, Raj.
Thank you very much. We're finished there. From a personal point of view, I'd like to thank all four of you for what I found incredibly interesting, for your impassioned and very intelligent comments. So thank you for giving up your Sunday mornings, guys. And thank you, John. Thank you, RP. Thank you, Ishi. See you all again. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah,
Thanks,
take
Darren.
care.
All the very best. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye, fellas.
Good to see you all.
Take care.